Now, I couldn't go in a straight line because I had to clear the throttle cable for the carburetors as well as the spark plug, so I kind of had to go at a funny angle, but it works and it's on there. So the Airbox is almost done. I did buy another air filter, one that actually fits on here. This is the other one that I bought for the bigger 3-inch diameter tubing. So we'll install that once I get here, but that's for mock-up. Now, I decided to do this instead of using the 90 degree piece that I bought for this thing. I put this on, I put it in place, and it just, I did not like the look of it. It looked weird. It looked like a tail on this thing, so I decided against doing this, and I did this, not only to get it lower to the engine, but also just kind of make it kind of looks better than this. This looked ridiculous. So also, once we get the other air filter on, I will support this because it's kind of just, you know, not much supporting that, but I don't think this part of the Airbox needs supporting. I think once I get all the clamps on, I think it'll be, you know, well supported on this thing. So now, next thing is let's figure out where the muffler is going to go on this thing. Now, this is the muffler that came with this engine, and my original thought, because of how huge and ugly this thing is, so it's also very heavy, I was going to see if I can modify this slightly to, you know, I'll cut this off, paint it to look like a gas tank, and then kind of just mount it above here. But before we do that, I first kind of want to see if one of these mufflers will work for this engine. There's a slight chance, there's a good chance that it won't, but I first want to see, because this muffler, it is for a 4-stroke, but I'm curious, will it work with this engine? So we're first going to try this. If it runs really poorly, I'll try the other muffler. If it runs better with that muffler, we'll figure out a way to use that one. But first, I really want to see, will this kind of muffler work for this thing? Yeah, I'm really hoping that this muffler works because it looks 1,000 times better than that other giant, where is it? That thing, that other giant monstrosity. Hopefully we don't have to use that thing. Now, the more I'm looking at this radiator, the more I'm kind of thinking that this thing may be a little overkill. So because this is a snowmobile engine, and snowmobiles have a way different cooling system than just a radiator, it's kind of a huge guessing game on how big of a radiator does this engine need. Basically, how I chose this radiator is I went on eBay and just typed in Polaris quad radiator, and I found this one. That one is for a Polaris something or other, I can't really remember, but it's for a 500 to 700 cc engine. So it's like, okay, this should be good. This is 600 cc. But something I didn't think about is that the quad is a 4-stroke. This is a 2-stroke engine. So how does that differ? Do 2 strokes run hotter than 4 strokes? I'm trying to Google this stuff, and Google, really, I don't know, they never give a straight answer. But basically what I found is two-strokes, while they do run hotter, apparently they don't need as big of a radiator, and sometimes they don't need radiator fans, but that's with dirt bikes. And I found a bunch of information on like Detroit diesel, like two-strokes for a semi-truck. So it's like, I don't know, I couldn't find any information on snowmobile engines, obviously because not many people do this. So yeah, we're probably going to have to play around a little bit with the coolant system on this thing. It'd be kind of cool if I can downsize this a little bit, just so I can get it maybe a little bit further away from where I'm sitting. So also, this engine doesn't have a thermostat. So that's going to be another huge question of, do I need a thermostat on this thing? Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a temperature gauge on this, and I need to figure out what is the optimal temperature that this engine needs to run at, and then I'll just kind of keep an eye on it as we're riding this thing, and if it's getting too hot, I'll add radiator fans. If it's getting not hot enough, maybe this is too big of a radiator, and if it's taking too long to get up to temperature, then I think I need to add a thermostat on this thing. So yeah, we're probably going to have to play around with the coolant system on this thing just to get it working properly. Also, I actually just uploaded yesterday the video of this thing where I built the gas tank and the airbox, and a lot of you guys are saying that this airbox is going to be too restrictive. Just having one 2.5 inch inlet is not big enough. So a lot of you guys were saying just add another one of these. And I kind of agree with you that maybe just the easiest way to do this is just to drill another hole in the airbox, have another one of these, go right here, and then just run 2 air filters. So yeah, I was hoping that this was going to be big enough, but I agree with you guys, it's probably not. Now, last little thing we have to build on this is the oil tank. Now, I know a lot of you guys have been saying to delete the oil injection and just run premix gas, and the reason I'm not doing that is simply because apparently on the early models of these XLTs, there was an issue of one of the crankshaft bearings not getting enough lubrication and running dry and wearing out super fast. So they solved that issue by running another oil line from the oil pump into the block right around here and then spraying oil onto that bearing. And this is one of those engines where they solved that issue. So I don't want to delete the oil injection and delete that extra oil line. So I'm kind of just wanting to just leave the oil injection and just run an oil tank on this thing. Also, because if I did run premix gas, then that makes it to where I have to bring another gas tank or another gas can to these off-road trips. So I'd have to bring a gas can of premix gas and normal gas. So just to kind of simplify things, let's just run an oil tank, put it right here. This is pretty much the best spot for it because it is as close as possible as I can get it to the carburetor. So it should be nice and gravity fed and not have any issues with that. So I am going to try to make this tank decently sized because I know if you actually look at the oil tank on the snowmobile relative to the size of the gas tank on the snowmobile, the oil tank is actually pretty small. And I know we have a really small gas tank on this thing, but we also have to take into account the extra 2 gallons of Rotopacks that I'm thinking about putting on this thing. I don't want to, if I'm putting the Rotopacks on here, I don't want to also have to figure out a little extra oil tank to put on this thing. So let's just make the oil tank decently sized, so therefore it'll hopefully be big enough for the full tank of gas tank on this thing, as well as 2, possibly 3 extra gallons from the Rotopacks. Alright, so while this cover is off, I do need to finish the jack shaft. I need to put the keyways and everything and make sure nothing's going to be sliding around. So let me do that real quick. Alright, jack shaft is finished. I got the alignments of the primary and secondary perfect. I also got the spacing pretty good. Belt tension I think is pretty good. Chain tension is good. As well as I put all the locking collars on all the on everything on the jack shaft to lock everything in place. Now, I did have to slightly modify this CVT cover because once I got the secondary pulley where it needs to be, it was kind of really close to this, and I kind of had a feeling that once the CVT fully expands, that part of the CVT may come into contact with this, so I cut it off. I added about 1/2 inch to 5/8 of an inch strip just to bump it out a little bit more, so hopefully it won't contact this side panel of the CVT cover. Yeah, no leaks, which is a miracle. Oil tank is done. Alright, oil tank is finished, pressure tested, and mounted in the frame. Now I wasn't 100% sure at first, like, is this thing big enough or is it too big? But then I pulled out the oil tank. This is the oil tank off the snowmobile, and it's like, this one's only a little bit smaller. But then I looked up how big the gas tank is on the snowmobile. It is 11.5 gallons. And our gas tank that we built is maybe 2.5 gallons. So yeah, I think the oil tank is plenty big enough. Now I'm kind of wondering, do we not have enough gas for this thing? Because I'm probably going to have to add the Rotopacks, but even with the Rotopacks, that's 4.5 gallons. So is that enough? Hopefully. Worst case, I can always just buy bigger Rotopacks for this thing. Now, I did have to also modify the radiator because originally the inlet was down here. I had to move it up to here because with the radiator hose installed, with the inlet right here, I couldn't get the fiberglass on and off, so hopefully raising it up a little bit can make it to where I can get the fiberglass on and off with the radiator hose installed. So, yeah, we are slowly knocking the stuff off the list. The oil tank is done, gas tank is done, radiator's done, muffler's done. Airbox is not done yet. I'm still waiting for the other aluminum tubing to get here, so therefore we can finish the other tube. And I also bought new air filters because the original air filter that I bought is kind of a little bit big. So if we're running 2 of them, I can run a slightly smaller air filter. So yeah. Next thing let's work on is finishing the fiberglass, because right now the fiberglass is touching the expansion chamber and really close to the headers, and apparently fiberglass is flammable. So what I want to do is cut an inch, maybe 1.5 inch gap around the expansion chamber and maybe 2 inches from the headers. And then I want to, because we don't want a gap right here, what I want to do is I want to rivet aluminum to the fiberglass to bridge the gap. Also kind of helps strengthen up the fiberglass, and I think it's going to make it look a lot better. Also, I do need to fix this because I had to cut so much of this fiberglass to fit over the CVT cover. This broke, so I need to cut a little bit more, so therefore it's not resting on the CVT cover. Then I want to add a maybe 2.5 inch aluminum strip all around here to fix that and to strengthen up the fiberglass a little bit better. Hopefully this doesn't burst into flames. There is a bit of a gap between where I'm trying to tack and the fiberglass. Also, there's a fire extinguisher right there, so hopefully this works. Yeah, this weld was not cooperating. I'm just trying to get it to hold in place so I can take it off and fully weld it. Hopefully I can take this thing off without it falling to pieces. Well, it kind of still fits on here. I'm hoping I can cut, the beginnings of these welds off, because, yeah, that's pretty ugly. That's not terrible. That's not bad. That one's not great. But yeah, this is a very complicated shape to try and get aluminum to fit on here. Yeah, it kind of looks like a weird toilet seat. Am I the only one that sees that? Yeah, I think it's super cool looking. It was a bit challenging trying to get it to conform to all these weird angles, but I think it did a pretty good job. There's pretty much no gap on this side except for right here. A tiny little gap right here, but I think it's fine. So also I do know that I'm probably gonna have to remove this once I paint this fiberglass, but this shouldn't be too hard. Just drill the rivets out, paint the fiberglass, and then I'll rivet it back on. Now, next thing is let's work on the one on the other side. Hey, finally, a rivet worked properly. I don't know why it keeps leaving most of the stud I don't know if I'm not doing it properly, or I don't know if this is just because it's a Harbor Freight rivet gun, because it seems to just be cutting it on top and not actually pulling it from where it should pop out. So I'm thinking of adding 2 more rivets right here and here. It's not going to help connect the aluminum to the fiberglass because there's no fiberglass back here, but it's just going to help continue the look of rivets all the way around, because I don't know, it looks a little weird with no rivets right here. So yeah, once I add those, I need to clean up the edges, and then this thing is pretty much done. Yeah, I think it is super cool because I never really liked how I had to cut so much of the fiberglass away to make room for the CVT cover. But now that I added that, plus this around the expansion chamber, I think that looks super cool. Now, I know I said that I was going to also add more mounts to the fiberglass to the frame, but I kind of forgot to do that, so we'll do that later. Now, aside from not finishing the airbox yet, because I'm still waiting for that aluminum tubing to get here. Once it gets here, we'll finish the airbox. But aside from that, everything on this is pretty much done. The radiator's done, oil tank is done, gas tank is done, muffler's done, CVT cover's done. Which means, next video of this project, we can finally start working on hooking up everything, like the brakes, the wiring, the radiator, the oil tank, the gas tank, and if everything goes according to plan, possibly seeing if we can get this engine to fire up for the first time. Yeah, it's been a lot of videos working on this project, a lot of time spent building each and every little component, but we're now finally ready to try to get the engine running. Now, again, it's going to be kind of a huge experiment to see how well does this engine run with all the modifications we did to not only the airbox, but also the muffler. Again, if it doesn't run great, I'll do a bunch of changes to it, try this, try that, and if it runs better with those changes, then that tells us that, yeah, either the aftermarket muffler is not proper, or the airbox is too small, but I kind of just want to see how well will this engine run with this stuff that we added to this. But anyway, guess that's it for this video. Thank y'all for watching. I'll see ya in the next video.